Occupying Till He Comes at Southwest Prophecy Ministries.
Welcome, friends. This is Dane Rome, your announcer for today's Last Days Beacon program. Thanks for listening, and thank you for joining us. Just a reminder that these programs are supported by your gifts to this ministry. If you would like to contribute to this ongoing faith ministry, which deals with biblical prophecy and current events, simply go to our website to contribute. Our website address is www.swpm.us. You'll find a donate link on the homepage. The website address again is www.swpm.us. Thank you for your prayers and support for this faith ministry. On today's program, Dr. Dave Schnitker talks with constitutional attorney Bill Olson about the information war in America and a brand new website he has launched to help you fight that war. Let's join them for this fascinating discussion.
It is a real privilege to have constitutional attorney Bill Olson on our program today and next week. Bill heads the law firm William J. Olson, P.C., Attorneys at Law in Washington, D.C. Bill is a personal friend of mine and a member of the Advisory Council of Southwest Prophecy Ministries. I have asked Bill to join me on the program today and next week. Today we are going to talk about an exciting new venture that Bill is launching. And next week we're going to talk about some very important cases that his law firm is bringing before the Supreme Court of the United States. Well, Bill, welcome to our program today.
I'm delighted to be with you, David.
Well, it's great to have you, and I appreciate your carving out some time in your busy schedule to share with us about your work. Before we get to the new venture, tell our friends listening today about your day job.
Well, we have a firm that works in the metropolitan Washington area. We have 5 lawyers. One of our lawyers is Herb Titus, former dean of Regent Law School, and we do a fair amount of religious liberties litigation, First Amendment, Second Amendment, representing groups like Gun Owners of America and others. And we try to defend the Constitution from an originalist standpoint, the sort of thing that in most cases Justice Scalia adhered to, and although not in all, interestingly. But we try to bring before the court arguments that others don't make. Very often that has to do with the textual, historical, contextual background on the Constitution or statutes. And we've now, just last week, filed our 100th amicus brief in the United States Supreme Court from our firm over the last couple of decades, which, looking back, is a whole lot of words to have submitted to the court.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is quite a milestone.
And then we have probably something short of 50 in other courts, in state and district courts and courts of appeals. And the other thing that's sort of interesting about the way we approach our briefs is that now in 40 different briefs, we've actually cited the Holy Bible in our briefs. We don't force it in, but whenever there's a biblical principle that the court needs to know about it, we'll cite it. And so you frequently go to the first page of our brief and you'll see Holy Bible is the first category of authority.
Well, that's great. That is great that you're injecting the Bible, the ultimate authority, into the secondary authority of our founding documents, which, of course,
it's something that was done much more 100 years ago. As we look back on briefs that were filed 150 years ago, than now, even Christian legal foundations don't do it nearly as often as you might imagine.
Well, it's great that you're bringing back that wonderful tradition. It really is. Well, that's great. Now, before we go to your new venture, please give your website for your law firm.
The law firm is www.lawandfreedom.com. Sounds like an organization, but it was a it summarized what we try to do with our firm, preserving freedom through law. So we grabbed it in 1999 and have been putting up there everything we have ever since. So there are some over 650 postings up there of briefs and articles that we've written and articles about what we've done, and everything's easily searchable. So if you have an interest, for example, in homosexual rights cases, you can click a tab and a tag, and all of a sudden they'll pop up, and it's or immigration law or whatever might interest you. So it's easily accessible, and it's sort of a research tool that we find useful for ourselves and sometimes for others.
Well, that's great. So our listeners can get a free, let's say, entry-level constitutional legal education just from examining your website.
Well, we actually, a former congressman, we quote on our website, he used to say, if you want to have a quick course in constitutional law, just read some of the briefs. So hopefully that's true, although not everything is self-evident. A lot of them are obvious as to what the arguments are. As a matter of fact, we often think that the arguments we make are more appealing to people who are not lawyers than they are to lawyers who've had the common sense trained out of them.
So this website could actually be of great value to the lay people that actually have open minds concerning truth. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I hope so. We put a lot of effort into it, but it's there. It's a resource, and if anyone wanted to look at it, it's available.
Okay, great. Now, on top of this, amazing fact-filled website, let's bridge into your new venture. And without signaling what that is, you tell us, Bill, what you are about to launch.
Well, this is something that's been in the works for quite a few years. The name of the website is biblicalgrid.com, which we've had for some time because we're always frustrated when people, even believers, don't try to apply Scripture to all aspects of life, including government. And so we've also seen a recent development with respect to many of the establishment products that we use to access information on the internet, YouTube, Google, Facebook. We've seen a real clamping down on Christian and conservative websites that stray over the line to violate, as they call them, their community standards. So if you report about transvestites and what might be wrong with that, then they say you're acting in a hateful way toward a group that violates our community standards, and so you're not going to have favorable treatment. And the result is that there have been initially 200 websites sort of debarred by Google, and many of them have come back on since, but they will not link to these groups in their searches. They will not allow those websites to be able to sell Google ads and make money for people who view them. Their YouTube is demonetizing videos that are posted where advertising is posted with the video, and Facebook is increasingly declining to link to stories that deal with issues like traditional marriage and homosexuality and the great problem we have here about child abuse and trafficking. And if you deal with those topics, you are in trouble. And so your website all of a sudden will become invisible. And what we did was to search out from our friends and contacts the ministries and other websites and that we thought were most valuable to having a biblical worldview. Some are Christian, some are libertarian, some are conservative, some are even some liberal groups that actually apply biblical principles, perhaps inadvertently. But we have put together, at least to begin, a couple of hundred of these links to other groups and publications and such. We're not thinking that everybody's going to look at all these all the time, but the concept of the website is to try to promote good groups, other groups. And so the basic theory is that if there's this one list of several hundred excellent ministries or good sources of accurate information, and even if we cannot get them as the screws tighten over the next months and years, they'll be available here for those who want to have access.
I'm on the website right now. It's very, in my view, very exhaustive, very well constructed, easy to use. It's very user-friendly. Share with our listeners some of the categories that you have established on this website.
The basic thrust of it is that every day we're going to have a Bible verse of the day, a quote of the day, and a book of the day, and then a story of the day, material will rotate, and then about half a dozen top stories from good sources around the country. So only that information changes on a daily basis. 90% of the website is fixed unless people write in and say, here's a ministry you're not promoting, you should, and we'll be adding those as time goes by. But some of the categories in the fixed area are things like Bible tools, worldview, Christian ministries, how to accessing Christian books and DVDs, circumventing Amazon, which is getting increasingly difficult as they're banning books. Certain books now you cannot buy on Amazon because they say they're politically incorrect. We have categories for investigative journalists and Russian news and think tanks. And
now, did you say Russian news?
Russian. Yeah.
Oh, we better not go there.
Well, it's actually
we might be pulled into some collaborative conspiracy here.
Well, even without evidence, you can be guilty. That just proves.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
But the hope is that, and what's quite interesting, I regularly review several European, UK, Israeli sites, and there are regularly information posted on those sites that are unavailable anywhere in the mainstream media because, of course, we have this remarkable concentration of media ownership in the hands of 5 or 6 companies that simply won't cover certain stories. So sometimes you have to go directly to the foreign press, and we pick out some of the best of those and put links up for those as well. Sometimes to find out what's going on in the United States, you have to look at the UK press.
Or RT, perhaps.
Or RT, remarkably, yes.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Some of the very they've done some very good investigative work that's borne research, scrutiny, and sometimes they have a better record than CNN and all the rest.
Yes, well, that's a pretty low standard, I will say, but I know I have gotten some very informative information from RT programs such as Crosstalk, etc. From my viewpoint, they're not nearly as propagandistic as the controlled American press.
Yeah, and really that's what we're trying to do. I mean, we're trying to help people be more discerning, spiritually discerning of what they read. They should people have to understand that a great deal of the power over the press is controlled by the prince of the power of the air. It's not surprising the father of all lies would communicate lies. And truth is a very rare commodity, and the websites which have the best information very often are those that get the least attention. So our project, and as we see the YouTube and Facebook and Google change their policies, is to try to promote the other groups. We're not so much promoting ourselves as trying to put out there ways you can get to good information.
Yes, and I noticed on your list you have some new kid on the block ministry called Southwest Prophecy Ministries, and a YouTube channel by the same name. So I'll be anxious to check that out. And I do appreciate that. And I see other ministries that perhaps are not, extremely well known or highly trafficked, but they have sound, content from a biblical and constitutional perspective. By the way, I should say this before I forget, and at my age I have to be very quick to say things. I have for some months been wanting to add a link on our homepage of swpm.us for recommended websites. And Bill, you have saved me an awful lot of effort. And so we will be very shortly linking on our homepage. We'll have a link called recommended websites or something to that effect, and it will take folks directly to biblicalgrid.com. So we will be linking to this website, and again, to try to make this information as accessible to people as possible, because we are in an information war. And I'm sure
very much so. And we're hoping to be open to input from people. We have a place there to contact us and to give us suggestions about stories that ought to be posted. Sometimes I go to a website and I see 40 stories of the day, and it drives me a little crazy. But we're just trying to pick half a dozen top stories that have some insight as to how Christians should view the news and what's true and what's not. And hopefully each day, it's a building process, and we learn from one day to the next. And the goal is to just make some incremental progress and promote the groups that are doing good work.
Absolutely, that's a
like yours.
Well, we certainly appreciate being noticed on this website. We're in some very good company, I will say that, in terms of the other websites that you have up here. And I'm also honored that I'm part of the advisory board for that, so I'll be looking forward to giving input and possibly even sending some articles your way. So I appreciate, and I did notice that on this website you don't have either of the two major parties linked. So this is definitely not a partisan effort, is it?
No, it's not. Really the solution is not going to come from a political party, and it's going to come from, if at all, the prayers of God's people and their ability to discern truth from among the lies that are disseminated by people who are professional people manipulators, also known as politicians, and so we're not really counting on anyone else. We just figure each of us has a duty to become knowledgeable in how to live in a society which is, depending on your view, it's either under judgment or it's on its way to having a reprobate mind. I mean, it's some of the court cases we work on, for example, do with transgendered individuals, and they keep calling little girls boys and boys girls, and as if they were. It really is an indication that we're passing along through the continuum of judgment into the status of a reprobate mind, which causes people to be almost unavailable to have rational dialogue with them. But in any event, the key to me is the body of Christ, and to make sure that we begin at home and try to make sure that we're all as aware as we can about tools of deception and sources of truth.
One of the things I appreciate about the ambition of this website is that you don't fall into the trap of what I call pietism. And that is that you separate biblical truth from the, the issues of the day. What you're trying to do, I think, through this website is apply biblical knowledge, biblical principles, which are unchanging, to the ever-changing issues and assaults on biblical truth in our day. And that's an ambitious and perhaps a bit of from a human perspective, a risky endeavor. It's quite easy for let's say a Christian pastor to share the gospel from behind the pulpit, but when you get into the issues of the day, whether it be the militant homosexual movement, the transgender movement, the radical Islamic terrorist movement, et cetera, or government corruption, Those are the kinds of things that tend to empty the pews. So you have unapologetically, linked to websites that deal with all of these issues and attempt to do it from a Christian and liberty perspective. So I applaud that. Give the website address again for those who didn't pick it up the first time.
Yeah, we tried to make it easy. It's www.biblicalgrid.com. And that describes what we're trying to do is provide a way to look at the world through a biblical grid. And hopefully that's catchy enough to be remembered. But in any event, we'll find it on the homepage of your ministry pretty soon.
Absolutely.
From what you say.
We want to make it very easy for people to find biblicalgrid.com. Well, Bill, that's all the time we have for today. I certainly appreciate you joining me for today's show. Now,
well, thanks so much. Appreciate the opportunity to share this information.
And for our friends listening, do not despair, because Bill will be back with us next week. We're going to transition. We're going to turn the page, so to speak, to discuss some very important cases that his law firm is attempting to bring to the Supreme Court of the United States. I'll give you a little teaser. These are both cases that come out of California, so hold on to your hats. You never know what's going on in California. But until next week, please give your attention to our announcer, Dane Rome, as he shares about our featured product for this month.
Thank you, Dr. Schnitker. Dear friends, this month we're featuring an excellent DVD entitled Vaxxed: From Cover-Up to Catastrophe. In 2013, biologist Dr. Brian Hooker received a call from a senior scientist at the CDC, who led the agency's 2004 study on the measles, mumps, rubella, or MMR vaccine, and its link to autism. The scientist, Dr. William Thompson, confessed that the CDC had omitted crucial data in their final report that revealed a causal relationship between the MMR vaccine and autisms. Over several months, Dr. Hooker records the phone calls made to him by Dr. Thompson, who provides the confidential data destroyed by his colleagues at the CDC. Dr. Hooker enlists the help of Dr. Andrew Wakefield, the British gastroenterologist falsely accused of starting the anti-vax movement when he first reported back in 1989 that the MMR vaccine may cause autism. In his ongoing effort to advocate for children's health, Wakefield directs this documentary by examining the evidence behind the appalling cover-up committed by the government agency who's charged with protecting the health of American citizens. You may obtain a copy of this 91-minute film entitled Vaxxed: From Cover-Up to Catastrophe for a gift of $24.95 plus shipping. Simply go to the homepage of our website, www.swpm.us, to find the film. The website again is www.swpm.us. And please join us next week for another Last Days Beacon program brought to you by Southwest Prophecy Ministries. Until then, this is Dane Rome. Thanks for listening.